Ladies and gentlemen, now hosting the RizzoCast, put your hands together for Steven Risotto!
What is happening, everybody, and welcome. This is episode number 71 of RizzoCast. I'm Steven Risotto. Jasper Lindsay's on assignment, and we are we are joined today by the beat writer for the Chatham Anglers of the Cape Cod Baseball League and Syracuse University journalism student. We've seen her once. She's back for a second time, the first person ever to be on two RizzoCast episodes. It's Allie Kaylor. Allie, welcome back.
Happy to be here again. Enjoyed it the first time. Looking forward to this one.
Super excited to have you back. And I know we have a topic in mind. And as I mentioned, you're in the Cape Cod Baseball League. For those who don't know or might have maybe heard of the Cape Cod League, I know I've heard it. Maybe I didn't do a whole lot of research into what it is. Kind of describe to them what it is and why players go there and play during the summer.
Yeah, so the Cape Cod League, it's a summer collegiate baseball league. So all of these guys either are college students or were college students that just graduated. And they come here, basically, it's just like they get to play in the off season. And it's a wood bat league. So a lot of these guys, it's their first time using a wood bat since the NCAA uses metal bats. And like a lot of their high schools use metal bats. So it's just they get like world-class training. Our pitching coach is, I believe, 16-year major leaguer Dennis Cook. Our hitting coach is former Ranger Mickey Tettleton. And so we've got like a lot of really good guys just coaching this team. Like a lot of like the Cape Cod League always draws the best players in collegiate baseball just because of like the prestige of the league. It's one of the oldest, it's been around for a while, and it attracts like all of these big names. And I once heard a stat where something like 1/6 of all current Major League Baseball players played in the Cape Cod League, because it's just like if you played baseball in college and you're playing Major League Baseball now, you probably played in the Cape League. And if you didn't play in the Cape League, you probably had a Cape League contract and for one reason or another didn't end up showing up.
Wow, that's outstanding. That's crazy to think about. And I know you, before we came on, I know you mentioned that there's a wall of all the former players that are now in the big leagues or went to the big leagues that went through the Anglers. So who are some of those players?
So our most famous one is Thurman Munson, played here in 1967. So that's kind of like really cool. Just like then it was just like Chatham. It didn't have a name. It was just like the Chatham baseball team, and he played here. And so that's like really cool knowing that like someone of like that caliber played here 50, 60 years ago. And like my personal favorite, like it's got to be Rich Hill. Like, you know, my whole thing with Dick Mountain, but he was here in 2001. Absolute legend. Like we love Rich Hill up here. And like current guys that I guess are like really good, Chris Bryant played here, Evan Longoria played here. So there's just a lot of like current major leaguers where every night in between innings we'll go over like Major League Baseball scores on the air, and we always like be sure to point out like current major leaguers in games. So like we always start out with the Royals because Whit Merrifield's always in their lineup, and we'll always do the Cubs because Chris Bryant's usually in their lineup. Jacob Stallings with the Pirates, like they're Matt Harvey, Rich Hill, like whenever the starters are starting, we always point them out. And so it's just really cool, like hearing that, seeing all of the guys that played here that went on like that, and then looking out at the field and seeing like the guys who will be doing that in 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, 100%. And Rich Hill is a great legend of the game. I don't even know how he got so popular, but like, I mean,
it's just Dick Mountain. It's 100%. Like his player's weekend name was Dick Mountain. People that didn't know who he was from that point on knew who Rich Hill was.
Exactly. And I'm not shocked that he went through the Cape Cod League. This guy has literally been everywhere. Like he's Cape Cod, top prospect to journeyman to independent baseball, back to the big leagues, postseason. He's done everything. So well-traveled.
Oldest Ray to get a hit in franchise history.
Wow. I did not know that at all. That's crazy. How old is he? Like 39, 40, 41?
41.
Yeah, 41.
Yeah, I don't remember who they were playing a couple weeks ago. I think it was the Nationals, but like he hit a single like as a pitcher. It is now the oldest Ray in franchise history to get a hit.
And he's playing with a guy who may be like the youngest guy in franchise history to get a hit, Wander Franco. So that's crazy. Wander Franco probably looks at him like his dad or something like that. Like if you're like 20 years old, I would feel very uncomfortable just like even talking to like a 41-year-old on your team. That'd be really strange.
It's like insane. He's younger than me. Like that's so weird.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, next year that's gonna happen to me. It's happening, Allie. It's happening. It's happening.
I mean, he's what, a month older than you? 2 months.
Yeah.
His birthday's in February, so 2 months older than you.
That's oh gosh, God, I can't even think about that. And then I'm sitting here in my room doing a podcast. Fun.
Yeah, we had a conversation the other day during a rain delay. It was like a couple of players who. There was one guy who we were all talking about Franco. And, like we have this guy who's on his like 4th or 5th year of eligibility, I think. And like someone was talking about how Juan Soto is younger than him. And he was like, nope, I'm 4 days older than Juan Soto.
Oh my God. Yeah, when Juan Soto came up and looked like he was like 28, or at least played like he was like 28. So yeah, no, the league's catching up to us. I'm actually going to today to the San Jose Giants game, the low A affiliate of the Giants, and Marco Luciano's down there, one of their top prospects, and probably soon to be one of the top prospects in all of baseball. And he was born the day before September 11th, 2001. So, I mean, if you want to make people feel old, that's the way to do it. So anyhow, we'll get to some of the standouts in just a second, but how do you kind of rate the caliber of play that is in the Cape Cod? I know you've seen baseball practically at every level, high school, college, professional, big leagues. How does it kind of compare with some of the others?
Yeah, this is the best non-professional like baseball talent I have ever seen. Like if you took the Cape League All-Stars, which we're not having an All-Star game this year, but they still like need a roster of All-Stars, they could probably beat most, if not all, like single A teams in baseball. Like it's again, all of the best college players in the country come to the Cape League. And so this is basically like an NCAA All-Star League. And then you have like the all-stars of the all-stars where you're like really getting the best players in collegiate baseball. So there are a ton of Bandy guys up here and ton of Mississippi State guys, ton of Texas, Arkansas guys, but then like there's some Division II players, JUCO players, and it's like a very interesting mix that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Do you know how like players kind of get involved with like how to, do they get invited? Do they just choose to play? Is it an entry type thing? Do you know how they kind of get involved?
So it is kind of an invitation where you'll have coaches and recruiters from the team will talk to the college coaches and be like, hey, like, I want this guy on our team. And then they kind of like work out some sort of deal there to get the guys to sign. And they have here there's temporary contracts and like permanent contracts. And so the permanent contract is, I mean, you're here for the whole summer, obviously, but then the temporary contract is like you can be like activated and released like at will, where it's like a lot of the guys that were drafted were on temporary contracts because like we knew they wouldn't be here the whole season. So there's no point in giving them a permanent contract. Or like College World Series guys, a lot of them are maybe on temporary contracts. And so the temporary contracts are just if we need an extra player, we don't have to go out and find another player and sign them. And we can just grab one of you guys. And my favorite like recruiting to the Cape story that I have heard so far here is that in 2003, the Anglers really wanted Jared Hughes to be on their team. That's another Anglers alum that I really like. But so they were like talking to his coach and they were like, hey, we want Jared Hughes on our team. Like, can we make that happen? And the coach was like, yeah, you can get Jared Hughes, but we also want you to take this guy, Evan Longoria. He was playing backup to Troy Tulowitzki this year. We're not sure if he's going to be a shortstop. He might be a third baseman, but if you sign, like, we'll let you sign Jared Hughes as long as you also sign Evan Longoria. And they were like, fine. I have no idea who this like Evan Longoria kid is, but Jared Hughes is one of the best pitchers in college right now, so we'll gladly take him. And then Longoria goes from like this nobody freshman playing backup shortstop to Troy Tulowitzki to Cape League All-Star, Cape League MVP, led the league in home runs. And that's like where he went from like not really anyone knowing who he is to like, what was he, like the third overall pick? And so like, I guess that's kind of like a twofer in this story where that's how players get recruited, but then that's also like how they get discovered is playing here. And that's kind of where you find out this kid that's like playing in a mid-major conference, or they're playing D2, or they're playing JUCO, if they can succeed against the Texas pitchers, the Vandy pitchers, the Arkansas pitchers, they're probably going to succeed in the pros, even if they're not always playing that talent.
Yeah, 100%. Because those are the pitchers from those schools are the ones that end up making it to the big leagues for sure. And it's also just a testament to like how guys are scouted. Like, oh, this guy's not playing, so here, take him as a throw-in. That's pretty funny. And Evan Longoria, of course, has had a very accomplished major league career. And Jared Hughes, who's known for a few things, of course, his preseason pictures that he does with his eyes wide open. He's been a pretty okay reliever. I mean, he's also known
great with the Reds. He was very good with the Reds for the year or two he was here.
And he's also known for running in from the bullpen and making JT Realmuto shake his head.
Have you seen the wide Jared Hughes video?
No, is there?
Oh my gosh, it's my favorite video. It's so funny. You'll have to like when you're going back and editing this, like I'm gonna send you wide Jared Hughes, put it in like right here for like 5 seconds.
Yes, I'll do that. I will do that. Now you personally, how did you get involved with kind of covering the team?
Yeah, so this is something that I guess writing for the Chatham Anglers has been like passed down through the generations. It's the Syracuse student paper where Jesse Daughtery, who's the current Nats guy for the Washington Post, wrote here in 2014. And since then, it's something like a ridiculous number of like people have just been like from the Daily Orange, where both the guys in 2019, one of the guys in 2018, I'm pretty sure one of the guys in 2017, like it's just kind of like the connections where it's like I found out that 2 people from the DO wrote here and they were like, you should apply for the Cape. And I was like, okay. And then I apply and like I'm on a phone call with our media coordinator. He's like, so Debundo and KJ? And I was like, yep. And like from there, it's like, I mean, he kind of knows what he's getting, where it's like the quality of the writing of 2 writers from the same paper one year is probably going to be very similar to 2 writers the next year. So it's just like, I guess for him, it's really nice that he knows what he's getting into. Yeah,
100%. And Jesse, I actually sat behind him in the press box.
That's sick.
I was just like I was kind of watching what he was doing. He was transcribing something, and then like I blinked and his game story was done. So I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? No, but no, he's definitely an awesome writer.
Jesse's awesome.
Yeah, and it like you said, rich history coming out of the Cape Cod, and you included there. So what is kind of your daily routine kind of covering the club? When do you get there? Obviously you're there early today. What are kind of some of the duties that you do, things you write? Tell us about your day-to-day routine.
Yeah, so I showed up early today, like just for this. I'm not usually at the park
Aw.
by 11 a.m., but um, on a home day, like our games always start at 7 when they're at home, and I'll usually probably get here around like 3, 4, 5, just like kind of depending on my mood. It's like, do I feel like showing up 4 hours early today, or do I want to get there like as late as I can?
Do I feel like
And
facing people today?
yeah, exactly. And so once I get to the park, like, so we have 2 writers. The other one's also writing for the Daily Orange, by the way. So
Oh,
lots of Syracuse people in here. But so we alternate back and forth every day. Like one day one of us will write the game story and the other one will do social media, and then we'll flip flop the next day. So I'm writing today. So I still have a preview story to write. So I'm gonna do that, which is basically just like pitching matchups, like players who have been on hot streaks or that you might want to pay attention to, or players who have been on cold streaks that might break out of it today. Just players to watch, like some stuff to look out for. So I'll probably write that as soon as we get off. But then I'm not sure if I'm gonna go home yet. Maybe I will, maybe won't not. But around probably like 4 or 5, I'll actually go in the press box, like kind of just observe for a bit, like see what's going on during BP, like are Mickey or Dennis working with one of the players, and can I go like kind of figure out what's going on there or whatever. I might write a couple hundred words beforehand of just like, here's some context of the game that I guess could be included in my game story. So then that's like, it's 200 less words to write when you actually get to writing. And then when the game starts, like I always score. My beat partner does not, but on nights that I'm writing, I'll score like the first 7 or so innings. And then I also have like a running Google Doc of like, I mean, I can say like this guy grounded out to shortstop, but then if there was like a diving catch or like the first baseman made like an amazing grab on a bad throw, I can like write that down. And so I like remember that when I'm going back and writing. It's like, all right, this is exactly what happened, and here's how to like visualize it. And usually around like 6, 7, 8 innings, I'll like start writing because I want to have like 100 words by the or 800 words by the final out. And so we publish like the early game story. And then after that's up, I'll go down and talk to the coach. I'll try to grab a couple players. That doesn't always work out, especially at road games. But after that, I go back up to the press box. For home games, they feed us. So like I'll have my post-game meal, and then sometimes I'll write the rest of my story from the press box. Sometimes I'll go home and finish it up. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I try to finish up like the full game story within a couple of hours, and then it goes up the next day, gets tweeted out and everything. So that's what my night tonight will look like when I'm running social media. We have like game day, like it's basically like any other team social media. We have a game day graphic, which is just like, we're playing today, here's all of the information about where it is and the time and who we're playing and everything. And we'll have like lineup graphics, like in-game graphics about like pitcher lines, like home runs, stuff like that. And we live tweet like pretty much every single half inning, where my dad has the Anglers notifications on. He said that like it's his personal like MLB at bat, where like every time someone scores, like he gets the tweet that like someone scored and this is how they scored. Or if a pitcher has a really good inning, like this person like threw 10 pitches and struck out all 3 batters or whatever, or really good defensive plays. And so like it's not every half inning, because I mean if a pitcher like gives up a single and then like retires the other 2 batters, that it's not particularly impressive, but it's not something that like everyone has to know. And like same thing if like a guy walks and like that's the only Anglers base runner that inning. It's like you don't really have to tell everyone that happened, you know? So we'll kind of like balance that of like we want people to like look at Twitter and see what's going on in the game, but we don't want to flood their timelines with stuff that's not particularly important to the game.
Mhm.
And so after the game, like final score graphic, whoever's doing social media is also the person that will like edit the game story and then post it on the website. So I do that. If it's at home, I'd grab the post-game meal after posting it. And then after that, it's just kind of like you hang out for a couple hours. Like I'll try to get some work done, but since I'm not writing, I don't really have anything to do until the game story's ready, unless like our videographer, our broadcasters get like the audio and visual highlights together. Our photographer puts the gallery up, then I can like tweet those out and put them on Facebook and stuff. But for the most part, like that's where my night ends. And so I guess that's like I have 2 typical game days, and I hope that I just kind of went over what I do.
Yeah, 100%. That was perfect. And I actually had a dream last night about missing a deadline, so I just didn't turn in a story at all and act like I took the day off or something. So I don't know. I have nightmares like that. I'm weird. So let's talk about the team that you covered, the Anglers. They're now 9-14, I think. What are some of the trends and storylines about this club that you've noticed covering it?
Yeah, so this team has just like it's been very interesting. So going in to the season, like this was going to be a big power team. We had Caden Grice, All-American freshman, second team All-ACC at Clemson, who was a huge power hitter there. We had Kevin Parada, who led Georgia Tech in home runs. We had Ethan Long, who this year at Arizona State shattered all of Spencer Torkelson's records that he set literally 2 years ago. And so like coming in, like the whole thing was going to be huge power team. And then Long never showed up. And now he's doing the Team USA showcase. Grice left early to doing the Team USA showcase. Parada's doing the Team USA showcase. So we kind of like, we lost all of our power bats. And so it's been a lot of adjustment where you have players that maybe weren't supposed to be stars, like now have to be stepping up and they have to be hitting. And like for some, I mean, I said earlier that a lot of these guys have never touched wood bats before. And so that's been a really difficult adjustment for a lot of guys on this team. So we went from being a big home run team to not hitting at all for the first couple weeks of the season. And like now the singles are starting to drop, the doubles are starting to drop. We had a home run yesterday. So guys are like, they're starting to get the pace up, which is good. But then there's also the issue with like the pitching's better than you've ever seen before. And so especially we have a lot of JUCO guys, and like these guys like 95 right by their head, or like curveball breaking into the zone that like they weren't expecting. And so that's been another adjustment where like, especially since we have guys that maybe aren't playing at the highest level, they're not playing SEC, they're not playing Big 12, whatever, that they aren't used to seeing this kind of pitching. And so that's been another adjustment where like, I mean, I'm not trying to come on here and be like, this team's terrible and they don't know how to play baseball, but I'm that's kind of what the adjustment's been like. And talking to players and talking to coaches, that's kind of like their biggest concern, is that like some of these guys are just having more trouble adjusting to the wood bats, to the pitching, than maybe some other guys and some other teams.
Interesting. It's I mean, I never really thought about how big that adjustment is, and some people make that adjustment in pro ball and struggle with it a little bit. So just a few of the players that you've seen and covered. University of Hawaii right-hander Aaron Davenport was selected by the Cleveland Indians in the 6th round of the recent MLB draft. You've gotten a chance to see him a little bit. Tell us what you've seen.
Yeah, so Davenport is like crazy, just like in terms of baseball and not in terms of baseball. Like he's just insane. Where
I've seen his hair.
Yeah, it's great, but he like maybe didn't do the best job in terms of like numbers, I guess, this year. He was getting hit quite a bit, but I mean, like, he has this stuff. Like earlier this year, he threw like a 3,300 RPM curveball. Like he right, and like I have a friend who is a friend of a scout, and like I was talking to him about Davenport, and he mentioned that like Davenport like regularly hits 3,000.
Wow.
Like which is insane, especially for like just a college guy. And so he has like some fantastic stuff, which is why I'm like not surprised that he went, I guess, relatively early. But then like I mentioned that he's like crazy off the field too, where one time there was like a luncheon where all the players had to introduce themselves, and they were asked like, it was like your name, your school, your position, and like your best memory from the season. And you know, like a lot of these guys were like, they beat Texas, I hit 3 home runs in a game, like I threw a no-hitter or whatever. And then Davenport comes up, and his best memory from the season is catching a 10-foot wave in Hawaii.
Oh my God.
Or like there was another time this year where he was released to from his contract to go do like pre-draft workouts, and so he's released. He shows up 3 days later and it's like, I'm transferring to Arkansas. So he just like tells everyone that like he was like this like working out and visiting schools like over the couple of days he was gone. And then it's like the game was rained out that day, and so the post-game meal is usually served on the field, but it was served in like the equipment shed this time. And so he just like he strolls in like barefoot, like it's raining, and he's just like, what's up, guys?
Oh my gosh.
And so he's ridiculous. I love him. And I'm like really excited to see the kind of stuff he can do in the pros.
Yeah, for sure. So Aaron Davenport, keep an eye on him as he goes through the Indian system. Austin Vernon is another guy, and another long-haired right-hander who is selected in the draft and taken by the Tampa Bay Rays. What have you seen from Austin Vernon?
Yeah, so he has just like, even besides his stuff, he has a super interesting story where out of high school, the only offer he got was North Carolina Central. And so that was like his only choice, was he went there and then became like, I mean, a top 10 round draft pick, where he just like somehow, I don't know what it was between high school and like his later years in college, but he just like completely transformed himself at NC Central. This last year, he threw the first no-hitter in program history. And last season, so this was 2020, he didn't go draft in the 5-round draft, but he grew up a Yankees fan. And then like after the draft, he like got a FaceTime call from Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman, like asking him to try to sign. And he said that it was like one of the hardest things he's ever done, was to turn that down, because he knew he pitches one more season, he goes and gets drafted in like a full draft, he's gonna make way more money then, and have a better like career outlook than he would if he had signed last season. So very interesting guy. And like I was ecstatic when I found out he was drafted by the Rays, because he's a really good pitcher and like an even better guy, and just knowing that he's going to be in like the system to be for pitching prospects, like I can't wait to see what this guy's able to do with the Rays.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody that gets drafted into the Rays system knows that they're going to get the best feedback, the best coaching for sure, and the best technology. And then the lone left-hander out of that group is, let's see if I can say his name right, Adam Tolik. Is that right?
Yeah. So
Adam Tolik from West Virginia, and he was taken in the 17th round by the Dodgers. Tell us about Adam Tolik. I said his name right. I'm happy.
So I'm not sure if like Tolik was expecting to be no, he was not expecting to be drafted because he said that he was like at the gym working out when it happened. And then he had a text from his friend, like once he gets done, saying like, "Hey, congrats, man." And he was like, "For what?" And he was like, "Dude, the Dodgers just drafted you." But he like West Virginia is his third school in 3 years. So like he's been around. But he, for like the better part of this season, was the best pitcher on this team, where he started this season with 11 scoreless innings, which at the time was the fourth most in the league. He's given up a couple of runs since then, but he was starting a game where the Anglers struck out 19 batters, and I believe he was responsible for 7 or 8 of those. So insane guy. I guess he's like more of a sneaky guy. He doesn't have like the crazy like 3,000 RPM curveball or he's not throwing 100, but he's just like, he has great command of his stuff, and he's able to get batters out with it, even if it's not the like typical like ridiculous pitches that you might think or expect.
Yeah, 100%. And I love the stories of when guys get drafted and hearing about it, and like how they like what they were doing when they heard they were called up. I mean, I love those stories. And I think I asked Eric Young Jr. The other day about where was he when he was drafted, because he was drafted in like the 30th round. And I always say to like guys that get drafted in the late round, well, we know how the first round people find out, like they're at home on the couch in front of MLB Network. But like 30th round in 2006, like how do you even find out about that? And he said that he was in his college film class, and he got a call. So that's pretty awesome, and I love those origin stories. This is just a wild card question. Was there a guy down there? We didn't prep for this one, but was there a guy down there named Patrick Wicklander?
Yeah, so Wicklander was supposed to be on this team, and he's another guy where he, like, after his insane season at Arkansas, it was kind of like, I'm tired from NCAAs. I'm like expecting on being drafted, and like he was another temporary contract, and like he just like didn't come up, and like it feels like I'm like roasting him for like he wasn't following through on his commitments, but like that's not how I'm taking it at all. It's like, I mean, you sign guys, other things come up sometimes, where like he was tired from the season after being their best pitcher all season. And then it was like, it's a better use of my time to try to prepare for the draft or prepare for next season than it would be to like maybe face life batting, risk getting shelled, and then not getting drafted or signed like he would want to be.
Yeah. And
so some guys take that risk. We're like the guys that we mentioned were like, I think that pitching here will be beneficial for me, or I know I have nothing to lose. So they'll come here, where for a guy like Wicklander, maybe like it's in his best interest to not come for the 1 month he would be here.
Yeah, makes sense. And I asked that because I know there's some people listening or watching that have some maybe PTSD feelings from Wicklander because he actually no-hit us in high school.
I love that.
Patrick Wicklander. Well, I was on the JV team at the time, and JV practice got done and varsity. So the people 1 year ahead of me were facing Patrick Wicklander, and I got to see that, and it was like 93 with like cut, and like they just looked mesmerized. It was like, and they said, we talk about it all the time. And also Red Sox prospect Nick York, who ripped an RBI single off me that went right back up the middle, almost took my head off. And he was drafted in the first round. So it's crazy when you have these connections. But Patrick Wicklander, wanted to get to him, and that people felt, have PTSD from facing him. And then when I got to varsity the next year, I asked the guys that faced him, I was like, yeah, what was it like? And, they were all like, oh, we didn't even see the ball. And then here he is in the Cape Cod. It's a small world, I guess, because, you kind of have a connection with him, sort of story, kind of, that he was supposed to be there, but he's not. So that's interesting. So what are you looking forward to the rest of the season here from the Cape Cod the Cape Cod League and the Anglers.
So I'm just excited to see how it goes. Where I told you that they've struggled to kind of like put it together, but at least for a second, like we just had a 3-game road trip and they won 2 of the 3, and then almost won the 4th. And so they were on like a really good stretch where it was like they're getting double-digit hits every game. They're scoring like a ton of runs every game. The pitching is like figuring it out, and then like it's kind of fallen apart the last couple of games, but just seeing if they can like find that spark again. And then like we've signed a lot of new guys recently, where with guys leaving for Team USA or the draft or whatever, I mean, you're gonna have to like find someone to fill in for those people. And so we have a couple more like JUCO community college guys that have showed up, and we have a couple more like guys that maybe weren't starters on their college teams but are going like it's going really well for them here. And so like this league is not about winning. It's about like the pitchers want to do the best they can, the hitters want to do the best they can and kind of like prepare themselves, and the coaches for the most part know that it's not about winning, where it's like, I mean, winning feels good, but I mean, no one really came here and like their one goal was like, I want to win a lot of games, I want to win a championship. It's I want to face the best pitchers in the league, I want to work on my swing, I want to try to hit for more power, or I want to add a new pitch, or I want to like add some more spin to my curveball, or add a mile an hour to my fastball, or like that's what guys come here to do. They don't necessarily come here to win. And so it's really exciting to like see guys like try to figure that out and work on that stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great that you're covering that team for sure. We can't have you on without mentioning the Reds. Just 1 second here. I know the Reds, they're like right around 500. I know the Brewers I think they have the biggest lead of any division in baseball. So
yeah,
what was
which
kind
is
of
like, it's so weird that like the Brewers have like the biggest division lead, but somehow the Reds are still in it. And you have like
and they're ahead of the Cardinals.
Yeah, it's like maybe for like other, like I know that a lot of NL East teams are like starting to tank now, and the Mets are like 3 games out of first place or stuff like that. And so that's just like, I'm not sure if like, so before the break, the Reds had 7 straight games against the Brewers, 4 before in Milwaukee and 3 after in Cincinnati. And like everyone was like, this is going to make or break the season, where if you can beat like the team in first place and show that like you're here and like you're not messing around, then go on a run. And in Milwaukee, they win 3 out of 4, heading into the break with their 2 all-star starting outfielders. Like the bullpen, which at one point had the worst ERA in baseball, suddenly threw like 14 straight scoreless innings or whatever it was. And it was like, all right, everything is finally coming together. And then the bullpen gives up 26 straight runs in 4 games.
Oh,
to start the So
that's tough.
Swept by the Brewers, and then lost the first game of the series to the Mets 14-11 through 11 innings, and they won last night. But like, I don't know. It's just I saw someone say that the Reds are in deadline purgatory, where they're not bad enough to sell, but they're not good enough to buy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
And it's like, I mean, I feel like the easy fix for this team is go out and like get bullpen help. Where if your bullpen's giving up 26 runs in 4 games, you're not gonna win anything. But we also have like an incredibly cheap owner, and like I will happily throw Bob Castellini under the bus. And just oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you trade for Archie Bradley at the deadline and then non-tender him in the offseason? I don't understand it at all. And that's what's keeping this team from being a contender 100%. It's like the bullpen. And it's just like frustrating that like the ownership thinks that finding a couple like journeymen and paying them $100 million on a 1-year contract, or I said what? Paying them $1 million on a 1-year contract is enough. And
I was gonna say $100 million on a 1-year contract.
Yeah. what 1 million 1-year contract?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned, the Reds and the Brewers going head to head. Same thing kind of with the Giants. I mean, they have a 4-game set here in LA, a chance to separate themselves a little bit. They won the first game, they lost in dramatic fashion last night. And then, there's a series in between, and then they welcome the Dodgers to San Francisco. So a lot of these divisions are going head to head like right away here. And this is definitely, it's not the home stretch just yet, but this is a really telling part in the year, especially with the deadline coming up for sure. Allie,
wait, hang on, one more thing. I think that something that like, I guess helps the Reds is that the Pirates are already the worst team in the National League. The Cubs are planning on tanking. The Cardinals haven't committed to it yet because they're the Cardinals, but like they're currently in 4th place, several games under 500. And like, I guess that helps them. What also helps is the fact that like the only teams above 500 that they still have to play are 3 sets against the Dodgers at home, which like for whatever reason, the Reds always just play very well against the Dodgers. Like 1-2 out of 3 in LA earlier this season. In 2019, I think, yeah, it was 2019. They swept the Dodgers in 4 games in LA. And it's like, for whatever reason, like the Reds can just like always beat the Dodgers. I don't understand it, but I guess I won't try to as long as they're winning. 2 games with the White Sox and a couple more with the Mets, and then a couple more with the Brewers. Like that's it. Everyone else is currently below 500.
Yeah, and speaking of the Reds, I was watching the Giants game last night, right? And Josiah Gray was making his big league debut, and he was in that Matt Kemp trade and Alex Wood. And they were talking about him. They're like, yeah, here's Josiah Gray making his, big league debut. And they used the opener. So it was the 3rd inning. And they're like, he's a number 1 prospect in their system. And he was, in the deal that actually sent Alex Wood to Cincinnati. And then all of a sudden they're like, all right, so in steps Alex Wood to face Josiah Gray, first big league hitter. And I was like, wow, baseball. Like that's insanity.
So
like there's so many weird things that happen like that, and it just makes you appreciate this game. So that's pretty awesome.
One time a couple of years ago, I like tweeted as a joke that like this is the greatest trade in Reds history. Like completely joking. And then like last night, some Dodgers fan like quote tweeted me, and I was like, "Who are you? And why don't you understand sarcasm? Like, please leave my tweets. I don't care what you have to say about this."
Yeah, exactly. They're the people that dig up the receipts, of course.
And again, it was a joke. I don't understand like what's so hard to understand about that. But Dodgers fans, what can you do?
I know. What can you do about them? They're a lost cause. I mean, they leave early. That's just a common thing about Dodger fans is they leave early. You see the brake lights when somebody hits a fly ball. You see the brake lights over the outfield wall. Like, so it's hilarious. Allie, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you coming on again and talking about the Cape Cod League and the Chatham Anglers of the Cape Cod League. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on.
I'm super fun. I'm really happy to be on again.
Best of luck to you moving forward, and enjoy the rest of your summer for sure.
Thank you.
You guys could follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at RizzoCast. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. You could find us. More episodes to come soon, and have a great day.